Classic sweet and sour tofu. We're going to start by baking our tofu. I'm using firm in this dish. Extra firm would work well also. I like to freeze and defrost my tofu before using. Freezing changes the texture of the tofu, giving a more meaty texture. I never press my tofu. Just give it a really good squeeze until most of the liquid is removed, which is much easier to do after it's been frozen. I like to cut the tofu into cubes. They then go into a bowl. I add salt and mix well. Then the cornstarch goes in. Not only will the cornstarch crisp up the tofu, but later on it will thicken the sauce. It then goes onto a baking sheet lined with a silicone baking mat, which isn't required. You could use parchment paper or just lightly oil the baking sheet. The tofu goes into a preheated 425-degree oven for 25 minutes. The vegetables we are using in this dish include a sweet bell pepper, a medium onion, and a medium carrot. I like to cut the peppers and onion in slightly larger pieces, which are usually how they are served in my local restaurant. You could cut them any size you like. For the carrots, it's important to cut very thin slices so that they cook properly before serving. Just be very careful not to cut yourself. You could probably use frozen or canned carrots if cutting them thinly is an issue. And I'm going to mince a couple of garlic cloves. If you've seen my show before, you might be aware that I save my vegetable scraps to make the richest, most delicious vegetable broth. Check out my short to learn how I do it. I'm going to heat up my heavy bottom pan. Once it's hot, the neutral oil goes in, and then seconds later, I add the veggies. I'm going to cook these on medium-high heat for about 4 to 5 minutes until they start to soften. Stir frequently and break up the onion pieces as they cook. While the veggies cook, I'm going to make the sauce. I'm using canned pineapple in this recipe. I like to buy a canned pineapple that has no added sugars. The juice really improves the flavor of the sauce. However, you could use water if you prefer. The sauce includes the pineapple juice, soy sauce or tamari, maple syrup, rice vinegar, and ketchup. I like to use a blending cup to make sure all of the ingredients completely incorporate. You could just stir them together if you like. Regarding the maple syrup, this recipe is sweet and sour, so if you're worried about the amount of sugar, we really cannot remove all of it. You could possibly half it. The thing to keep in mind is that the sugar balances out the vinegar. Reducing the sugar too much could negatively affect the balance of the sweet and sour. This is not my normal ketchup. I usually use one that has less sugar. I'm not sure why we have this. But you can use any ketchup you like, or even just replace the ketchup with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste if you are concerned with the sugar content. One more thing about the sauce. If you've had sweet and sour sauce from the restaurant, you probably noticed that it's red. And it gets that way from food coloring, which I am not using today. But if you want it to be more red, feel free to add a couple of drops of red food coloring. Now that the veggies are softening, the garlic goes in, and in a couple of minutes, I'll add the pineapple. I know the pineapple is controversial for some people. Feel free to leave out the pineapple if you don't care for it or use less. The pineapple should be heated through, so let's throw in this sauce. As soon as it starts heating up, it's time for the tofu. As you can see, the baked tofu is springy. Mix the tofu in thoroughly and allow it to cook for about 5 minutes on medium-low heat. We want the tofu to soak in some of the delicious sauce, and the cornstarch from the tofu will help thicken the sauce. Once the sauce looks thick, it's ready. And this may be controversial, but I am adding a sprinkle of MSG to my dish. You absolutely do not have to use it. But let me just say this. MSG is naturally occurring in tomatoes, carrots, onions, and other foods. The rumors about the dangers of MSG are just that, rumors. Studies have shown that the vast majority of people report no ill health effects from the consumption of a small typical amount of MSG. And MSG certainly boosts the flavor. And I'm adding some sesame seeds to make my dish prettier. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video on garlic, not chicken. Bye!